Well, happy Halloween! We couldn't think of a better way to spend our Halloween than with one of our favorite authors, Lou Berney. Enjoy!
I'm Ann Dart.
I'm Tracy Stormy.
And I'm Kathy Knight.
And together we are
It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club,
a podcast for mystery lovers.
Welcome.
If you enjoy our show, please consider contributing to the Dark and Stormy Patreon. By becoming a patron, you will help us create better and quality content. There are also benefits to becoming a patron, such as exclusive content and Dark and Stormy merchandise. Become a supporter at patreon.com/darkandstormybc. Check our website for the link. We appreciate any and all contributions. Thank you.
We are very pleased to welcome to the program Lou Berney. He is a friend of the show from several years ago. We are pleased to talk about his new book, Dark Ride. Welcome, Lou.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's great to be here.
We fell in love with your books when you did November Road. That was such a good book.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
That's how we found you, is that book. And every book that ever since then has not disappointed. Oh my goodness. I don't know where in your brain all those great ideas come from.
I'm glad you think so.
All those evil people.
Well, yeah, that's a little more worrisome that they come from my brain too, but I'm just getting them out of my brain.
Yeah.
Well, for our listeners who have not read your book, can you give a little elevator pitch of what the book's about?
Sure. Dark Ride is about a 21-year-old kid, a slacker, kind of lazy, just sort of drifting through life through a series of minimum wage jobs, doesn't like to put effort into anything. And then one day he happens to see two kids who appear like they're being hurt by somebody. And so he tries to get someone to help him, to hand off this problem to someone who's more responsible than he is. But no one will listen to him, so he has to take over and try to save these kids, which he is completely unprepared to do and unsuited to do, but he's got a very good heart, and so he just has to push on.
Yeah, and his name is Hardly. Well, not but they call him Hardly.
Right.
He's going to pay his parking or speeding tickets.
Yeah. He's going to delay them, which is, I thought that was an important distinction I made when I was writing it. He can't even be bothered to pay. He's just going to delay it until the next month.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a guy who puts it off. Yeah.
He spots these two little children who obviously have bruises and scars where they shouldn't have scars at their
The one thing about that character I really liked was he's just very good-hearted. So when he sees these two kids sitting by themselves, he just naturally goes over to check that they're okay. That leads him into a deeper and deeper kind of situation.
What gave you the idea for that?
Well, I like the idea of having a main character who has a really good heart, a kind heart, but doesn't necessarily have any skills or training to back it up, and then throwing him into the mix of a very dangerous situation to see, can he become something better than he's been before? Can he become enough to do what he wants to do? And so for me as a writer, that was an interesting question that I really didn't know the answer to until the book was over. I think also, I'd been working on a book for a couple of years before Dark Ride, and it just really wasn't coming together at all. And I felt very incompetent. I felt very unable to do what I wanted badly to do, which, they say write what you know. So that kind of got transferred into Hardly, I think, as a character who just feels like he's out of his depth and, not up to the task, but has to find a way to get there.
Get anybody to listen to it.
Which I think is true to a large degree. I think a lot of people nowadays just don't want it to be their problem. They want it to be someone else's problem. So I like that. Hardly even, he was the kind of guy who's like, okay, there's no one else. I can't just forget about it.
For the listeners, this has one of the best climaxes. I mean, spot on.
We won't go into it.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that because It's a very tricky situation going, the last third of the book. It was very delicate, the balances you have to do as a writer. And I was really happy with the way it came out. So I'm really glad to hear that you feel the same way.
It was very, very well done. Poor Hardley. He worked at Tracy will know my reference, a Six Gun City. He was the dead sheriff for the...
Yeah.
He was just one of these guys that just kind of skated along, had a little herbal refreshment.
Right.
Okay? When he decided he has to get serious about this, everybody's kind of look at him going, yeah, right.
Right.
After doing over 300 of these episodes, that's why I asked where these ideas come from, because I'm in awe of how you take something like that and get it on the page. Listening to you, from what I gather, you're not a plotter. You're more of a pantser.
Well, I'm kind of the worst of both, to be honest. I do a lot of planning, and then I start writing and I throw out a lot of the plan, and then I go back and plan some more and throw out a lot of the pantsing. And so I'm kind of like Hardly in that way. Like I do a lot of trial and error, and I end up messing up a lot. And for me, it works. I've just accepted that's part of my process. I really want to do something original every time with every book. And when there's not any kind of recipe, then you're going to make mistakes. And luckily for me, they're not life and death, but it's my career. So it's pretty big. And so I kind of felt that with Hardly a little bit, like thinking you knew the right way to do it, but then discovering that's not the right way and having to recover and figure out another way in, that sort of thing.
Well, the one thing about...
This is my fifth. I have two early novels that are a part of a series that were of an Elmore Leonard series, yeah.
Right, that's right. I remember you talking about that the last time we had you on the show.
But each time, your hero is a non-hero.
He's an anti-hero.
Or an anti. Right. They're not somebody would say, and he's going to take over this story and he's just going to come in with his white horse. In all the ones that I've read, this is the third one I've read.
No, there's two. That's exactly right. Yeah.
So they're not heroes. They're sort of made to be a hero as the story progresses. And that's one of the things I like about your books because...
Oh, good.
Hardy...
It's kind of like an underdog. You're kind of pulling for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. I don't know where that comes from exactly, but that's always the kind of character I most gravitate toward and I'm most engaged with, both as a reader and a writer. I think it's because it creates surprise. Like there's real uncertainty in a story when you don't have a hero you know is going to win in the end. Like it's always up in the air. Like we don't really know what's going to happen with these kind of characters. Will they rise to the occasion or will they take a sharp left turn and who knows go where? Because
when this story starts out, the first thing Hardy does is say, we have to call Child Protective Services. And Child Protective Services has such a... They're not going to jump on a case like that. Gets pushed into the role of the hero. He has to save those kids. And it is just so very well done.
No, thank you so much.
The one thing that I've always enjoyed with all three of the books that I've read of yours is you're a very visual writer. I can feel where those characters are in a story. And that really means something to me because I'm a visual reader. I love to put myself in, I'm right there with them. And you make it very easy.
Oh, I'd love to hear that. It's the kind of thing that I can't write a scene unless I can really see it in my head and unless I'm really there. And that's part of why it's trial and error because if it's just words on the page, it doesn't come alive for me. And I know it won't come alive for the reader either.
Well, even the part where he's at his job and he's getting shot, you're going to be the dead guy today, or you can picture him just, okay, here comes the crowd. So,
yeah.
Well, after saying what I just said, is there any talk of any of yours becoming movies?
Well, there was definitely interest in November Road, and we were down the road with that for a while. But right now, with the writer's strike and the actor strike completely on hold, and hopefully all that will be resolved soon, and we'll be able to move forward with things like Dark Ride.
Oh, nice. That's what I want to hear.
Are you working on anything now?
I am. I've got a new book I've been working on probably for, oh gosh, when did I start? I started probably 8 or 9 months ago. I mean, it's coming along really, really well, and I'm loving it. And it's very different than Dark Ride or November Road. I feel like each book's going to be different from the last for whatever reason. I don't really plan it that way. But I'm trying to figure out what Anne was saying about if the characters in this new one are kind of underdogs so I got to think about that. Although it's good not to think about that too much while you're writing. I think it's important to just let the characters come.
Yeah. He'll be an underdog, even if he's not.
Right.
Now, do you pick your own titles, or do you have help with that?
I picked this one, I believe. I trust my agent a lot and my publisher a lot when it comes to titles, because titles are so important in selling books. And so that's really not my expertise. November Road, I remember,
That's a perfect title.
Thank you so much.
That was.
We had a list of titles, and my agent and I were just going back and forth. We ended up combining 2 words from 2 different titles to make November Road. And I remember we were like, oh my gosh, that's it. Dark Ride, I think that was my title. I liked it because it refers obviously to the amusement park where he works. Oh. A dark ride is an amusement park ride that goes indoors, and there's an actual dark ride in the novel. But it also has this feel that it's a dark book in some ways, but it's also a fun ride in other ways. Like it's got both light and dark, which I think is something else in my books I kind of always am feeling emerge. I don't think I could write a book that didn't have a little bit of humor in it, but I couldn't write a book that didn't have a little bit of, dread and danger in it too.
Oh, yeah. And Hardly gets his antics in the beginning, especially at the amusement park and with his buddies. The humor's there.
Okay. You're not interested in writing a series?
Uninterested if the right idea comes up, but I don't want to just do it for the sake of doing it. Like I feel like every book should be different. I'm totally open to following some of those characters because I love the characters, but it would have to be the right idea. I'm not a real fan of books that are just a series for the sake of the series and it's the same story over and over again. Like I don't really like to read those, and I don't want to write that kind of book. Not judgmentally.
I remember with November Road, I love those characters so much, but you wrapped it up so neatly at the end. There was no reason to have it go on.
And really Hardy, he could become a character, but it wouldn't be the same because this story is resolved.
Right. I think it goes back to what you were saying. When you have underdog characters or characters who are unlikely, they really only get one great story in their life. That wouldn't make sense for someone like Hardly to have another huge dramatic adventure. That doesn't happen to real people.
I'm looking for kids that are.
Right.
When I read one of your books, I'm getting to the point that I know it's your book. And
really? That's awesome.
And there's only one other writer that does that for me, and that's Stephen King. When I see that you've got a new book coming out, it's a no-brainer. I got to read it.
I love hearing that so much. You don't understand. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Yes. About 20 pages in. This is a good one.
That's good.
You keep pounding them out, and we'll keep having you on because
I really appreciate it. I always love chatting with you all. And
now, how long does it take you from concept to getting a book out? How long does it take you to do the whole process?
Well, I usually average about 2 years to write the book, and then it's usually about a year or so, the way publishing works, to actually get it together, market it, and release it.
Okay, so we got another year to wait.
Right. I think even in 2024, I'm hopeful maybe, but 2025 at the latest.
Okay, very good. Well, Lou, we thank you for talking with us. We always love to see your book coming out. Your characters are great. It's just always a pleasure.
It's a love fest.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it so much, Anne and Tracy, for having me. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you all.
We wish you all the best, and you enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I remember with November Road, he blew me away. And the fact that it's become a movie, they are missing the mark. Yeah, we can
If you're a listener and you like what we do here, please consider becoming a patron from patreon.com. You can support us for as little as $1 a month. Every penny raised goes to enhance the program. Go to patreon.com/darkandstormybc. Give you incentives, promotions, and any information you need. We thank you again. Trivia. Last week's question was, Isaac Asimov was a prolific author, but he had one serious phobia. What was it? A, the fear of the number 13. B, the fear of heights. C, the fear of closed spaces. Or D, a fear of flying. The answer is D, fear of flying. Asimov was afraid of flying and did so only twice. Once in the course of his work at the Naval Air Experimental Station, and once returning home from Oahu in 1946. Consequently, he seldom traveled great distances. This phobia enhanced several of his fiction books, such as the Wendell Yurth mystery series and the robot novels featuring Elijah Bailey. In his later years, Asimov found enjoyment traveling on cruise ships, beginning in 1972 when he viewed the Apollo 11 launch from a cruise ship. On several cruises, he was part of the entertainment program, giving science-themed talks aboard ships such as the Queen Elizabeth II. He sailed to England in June 1974 on the SS France for a trip mostly devoted to lectures in London and Birmingham, though he did also find time to visit Stonehenge. This week's question is, author Charlotte MacLeod had a family connection to which criminal? A. Whitey Bulger. B. John Gotti. C. Al Capone. Or D. Albert Anastasia. Turn in next week for the answer. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode. We want to thank Lou for talking with us. His books are so much fun. You will not be disappointed. Next week, we will have our monthly What We're Reading, and this month it is based on colonial America. We found some good ones, so be sure and tune in then. We'll see you next week, and remember,
Life would be boring without a little mystery.
bye!
Bye.